All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So it's Combine Week. There's so many things happening, so many rumors and reports and rumblings. We're going to hear from Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn later on today. But in this one, we're going to be breaking down Mel Kiper's second mock draft of the offseason. And with that said, at the number one overall pick, he is the Tennessee Titans going with Abdul Carter from Penn State. As the days keep going by here, it feels more and more likely that the Tennessee Titans will go with Abdul Carter, just to have this force off the edge, pairing him up next to, of course, Jeffrey Simmons, one of the best defensive tackles in football, and T'Vondre Sweat, last year's second-round pick out of Texas. I mean, man, he was so impressive last season. All of a sudden, you're looking at this Titans team. I mean, you think about the AFC, Josh Allen, Lamar, Burrow, Mahomes, Herbert, all these great quarterbacks. Abdul, like you got to get after the quarterback. You cannot be one of these teams that just is ineffective at rushing the passer. And Abdul Carter would instantly boost the Tennessee Titans' fortunes on that side of the football. The question is, what happens with quarterback? Now, I could see the Titans making a move in free agency. Right, a team I think right now is sitting just over $40 million, $45 million, roughly in free agent in available cap space before cuts. Could the Titans make a play for Sam Darnold? Could the Titans make a play for one of these veteran quarterbacks just to hold it down if they're not 100% sold on Cam Ward or, Shedeur Sanders here? That's the big question, because the Titans, they're in a unique position. On one hand, the team went out and hired Mike Borgonzi, the number one general manager candidate out there. Let's face it, he's coming over from Kansas City. He probably would have interviewed for the Jacksonville Jaguars job if he didn't get this job. He interviewed for the Jets job. He would have interviewed for every GM opening next year as well. He knows what a successful team looks like. He's worked his way up. Fantastic general manager candidate. He has time. He's not going to be rushed to build this team. If he's not sold on the quarterback position, at least, for the number one overall pick, just go BPA. But then on the other hand, you have Brian Callahan. And I mean, there were tons of issues last season. Tons of issues. I mean, the losses are one thing, but to have a team go out and sign Calvin Ridley, trade for L'Jarius Sneed, Pollard, Cushenberry, adding J.C. Latham, again, T'Vondre Sweat, to get 3 wins and look like how they did is just so it's unfortunate, right? And I mean, there were rumblings that the Titans were going to fire Callahan. He needs to win immediately. And I'm just going to sit here and assume that he has the Titans signing whatever it may be, a Justin Fields, a Sam Darnold, a quarterback that could hold it down, or at least, go out there and be an improvement over Will Levis. I still feel like Will Levis has potential. One thing you can't deny is his physical ability. He can move around. He can stand in the pocket. His arm strength is crazy, but it seems like it's the mental side. So you could argue, okay, let's stash Levis on the bench, or even just start a quarterback competition. Have Levis hopefully understand the system more going into year 2 of the same system. Now, system fit is debatable with Will Levis in Tennessee, in my opinion, but if Borgonzi just wants to play it safe, we'll just go with the player that wrecked college football last season. And oh yeah, he's coming in at one of the most important positions on the field, edge rusher. Okay, so next up at spot number 2, he has the Cleveland Browns going with Cam Ward from Miami. This is interesting, and he talks a little bit about this in his description here. Basically how Deshaun Watson is playing a part in this. The team owes Deshaun Watson so much money. You're looking at the cap situation. It's not good at all. They're actually over the cap. Do they trade Myles Garrett? Could they be entering a rebuild? You have your choice between all the quarterbacks here at spot number 2. Are the Cleveland Browns a team that's going to be picking in the top 5 next season? I would say probably not. It does. Cam Ward would obviously come in and be cheap. All of those things really make sense. I think Cam Ward's play style it makes sense for Cleveland too. He has the arm to push it through the wind, to push it through the cold. He's won everywhere he's been. It's not like there's a question about like, oh, can he play in the cold weather? Can he force the ball through the snow or anything like that? Cam Ward does make sense from that standpoint. Here's the thing, though. I don't think Cam Ward should be the day one starter for the Browns if this is the case. Or if that is the case, Stefanski actually needs to build the offense around Cam Ward's skill set. If you put him in this style of system where he's under center a lot, he's handing the football off a lot, and he's asked to stay in the pocket, I think I think you're just not maximizing Cam Ward's potential. But maybe that isn't the case, right? Maybe Stefanski's like, hey, you know what? I learned my lesson from Watson. I mean, the team went out, traded a Hall, paid Watson all this money, fully guaranteed deal, for him to come in and say, no, you run my system. We're not going to build the system around you. I mean, it was clear that Deshaun Watson did not fit what the Browns were trying to run. So if he's willing to do that with the highest paid quarterback, after trading away whatever it was, 3 first-round picks plus more, would he do that again? I don't know. It's up for debate. I also think Kirk Cousins makes a lot of sense here to reunite with Stefanski on just a cheap 1-year deal. But who knows? Maybe the Browns can do both of those things if Cousins is willing to take a really, really cheap contract. But anyway, it's hard to argue with the team that doesn't have a franchise quarterback to take one up at the top of the draft. Wow. Next up at spot number 3, he has the New York Giants going with Travis Hunter. Now, I love Travis Hunter. Just so electric. Whenever he's on the field, he's the most explosive player. Offense, defense, the numbers are there. The production is there. The Heisman's there. God, he's such an interesting prospect. I'm fascinated to see which team he actually lands on, come draft day. But here's another situation where the Giants just don't have a quarterback. And it's not a slight towards anyone. I'm talking from like a literal standpoint. Tommy DeVito's a free agent. Daniel Jones is no longer with the Giants. Drew Lock, also a free agent. They literally have 0 options at the quarterback position. So I'm just going to sit here and assume that Mel Kiper has the Giants signing Darnold, maybe trading for Stafford. He talks a little bit about that in the little description here. Maybe the Giants go in that direction. And to be honest with you, I don't really think that's a bad move if the Giants want to go out and do that, because much like Brian Callahan, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are coaching for their jobs. I mean, it's just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment every single year with these two. They have to turn it around at some point. And it's bad enough watching Saquon and, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. But then you have Washington, who is the second worst team in football the year prior. I mean, they find their new coach, they find their new coordinator, they find their new quarterback, and boom, they're off to the running. NFC Championship game. And the Giants are yet again picking in the top 5. So something has got to change. Now, Travis Hunter, in my opinion, is the best player in the draft. You can't really argue with the team, especially if he's going to be coming in as not only the best player in the draft, but also coming in a position of need. But again, I'm just going to look at this pick with the mindset, with the assumption, okay, Matt Stafford's the Giants quarterback. Sam Darnold's the Giants quarterback. And because if they just sign, they re-sign Drew Lock to a 1-year deal, they re-sign DeVito to a 1-year deal, and they go with Travis Hunter here, I think there's going to be major, major questions. Unless, of course, they fall in love with a Kyle McCord, a Tyler Shuck, who's getting a lot of love as of late from a lot of different people, maybe a Jackson Dart. We'll see how it plays out, but Travis Hunter to the Giants here. So next up at pick number 4, he has the New England Patriots going with Will Campbell, tackle/guard from LSU. Now, Campbell's someone who a lot of people are kind of projecting he's going to slot in as a guard because of the arm length concerns, which I'm somewhat on board with. I like Will Campbell as a prospect. I think the Patriots are in a prime position here to select a player that's going to benefit this team in one way or another. I just think that it's a little too high for Will Campbell. I like the thinking, right? Mike Vrabel, where is he coming from? Tennessee, protect the quarterback, run the football. Who's the best, the most exciting player, the crown jewel of the franchise? It's Drake May. You got to protect him. But if you project Will Campbell at the next level as a guard, I think this is too high. In my opinion, Olu was a better prospect. Joe Alt was a better prospect. I just don't really feel like Will Campbell is worth the 4th overall pick, in my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm dead wrong on it, but I still think he's a really solid player. I mean, in my personal mock draft, I have the Bears going with him at spot number 10. So it's not this tremendous drop or anything like that. I'm not saying he's a 2nd-round pick or anything. I like Will Campbell a lot. But if I'm the New England Patriots, what do they have? $120 million in cap space. I'm spending the money. That's what the money is there for. Spend the money. Ronnie Stanley's a free agent. You could plug him in at left tackle. There's a lot of different guys that the Patriots can add here on the offensive line through free agency. I just don't necessarily know if this is maximizing the pick. Now, who knows? Maybe the Patriots don't want to maximize the pick and they just want to go strictly for team need. Again, to protect Drake May, the Mike Vrabel philosophy, I get it. I understand it. I'm not gonna sit here and give it an F or anything like that because, again, major position of need, good player, team fit. Those things make sense. I'm not going to, dock the Patriots for that, but I just feel like Mason Graham here makes a lot of sense, right? Going with, a player that, in my opinion, is a top 5 player in the draft. You can argue potentially trying to trade back. Sanders is on the board here. Could a team want to jump up to spot number 4, like the Raiders potentially? I think Tyler Warren, the pro comparison that you hear with Tyler Warren is Gronk, who's the OC with New England. It's Josh McDaniels. I think that would be just a huge security blanket for Drake May. But again, I think maybe tight end's a little too high. It all kind of depends on how the teams look at each individual position. But anyway, moving on. At 5, he has the Jags going with Mason Graham, D tackle from Michigan. Very, very hard to argue with this pick because you're looking at, the potential at what this defensive line can be, right? With Trevon Walker, with Josh Allen rushing the passer, off the edge. Mason Smith, they drafted him from a year ago. They have Eric Armstead as well. All of a sudden, this Jaguars D line is like ready to hunt the quarterback, ready to stop the run. Mason Graham to me is one of the more like higher floor types of players, one of the safer players in the class who can affect the passer and stop the run. I think, if you add him to the mix, not only of course it's a great boost for them, but it also makes everyone's job easier on the defensive line because you have to worry about Mason Graham. You also look at the new regime coming in. Liam Cohen, of course. The Jags are in a sweet position. They can go in a bunch of different directions and be totally fine. But look at their new general manager. It's James Gladstone. Where did Gladstone come from? The LA Rams. They know the importance of having a dynamic, talented defensive line. Of course, all those years with Aaron Donald, looking at the Braden Fisk draft pick, the Verse draft pick. I think this, to me, it's a very safe play for the Jaguars. And if I was a Jags fan, I'd love this pick, even though it's not like maybe the biggest position of need. Wow, at spot number 6, he has the Raiders going with Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. This is something that I could definitely see happening. Ashton Jeanty, man, he's so much fun to watch. So much, he's just bouncing around guys. He's so hard to bring down on first contact. Runs so mean, so aggressively. I mean, he kind of fits that mold. Like when I think about like a Raider, tough, hard-nosed, physical, not going to quit, not going to give up, loves football. Ashton, you're looking at the new OC, right? Chip Kelly coming in, you're thinking about that offense. What does he want to do? He wants to run the football. He wants to really feature the running back position. Now, you could, of course, argue maybe Judkins later on in the draft. You could go with, maybe a different position like corner or QB. And much like the Giants, by the way, I'm just going to assume that, Fields is brought in, Darnold's brought in, Russell Wilson's brought in, someone else, because I just don't know how the Raiders can sell it to their fans. Because Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, I believe, are both under contract for this upcoming season. I just don't see them running it back with those two again. And just we just witnessed that last season, and it, despite Bowers, despite some positives, some bright spots, it resulted in a lot of losses. I just can't see the Raiders kicking the can down the road another year at the quarterback position. So this is under the assumption that they sign a big name quarterback in free agency or potentially trade for one or something like that. Now the Raiders do have a lot of cap space. Over $90 million at this point in time. Now that I know that number is going to be coming down, but even with that said, they could bring in Darnold. They could bring in one of these guys and make it work. They have the money to pay a quarterback. It's not like the Browns where they're completely strapped for cash and they can't go out and give Sam Darnold a $30 to $40 million annual type of deal. They just can't do that. So with the assumption that the Raiders sign, let's just call it Sam Darnold, because there is a lot of smoke there to, for him to join fellow USC Trojan Pete Carroll, Ashton Jeanty to me makes a lot of sense because all of a sudden you're looking at, boom, you got Bowers, you got Mayer, you got Jeanty, you got Tucker. There's some nice young talent here with this Raiders offense. Wow. So at pick number 7, he has the Jets going with Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado. And I was thinking, when I didn't see Sanders' name for the Raiders, I wonder if he's going to put Sanders here for the Jets. And he did. Now, it feels like not everyone is completely on board with Sanders. I'm talking fans wise. Personally, this is just my opinion. Not saying I'm right. This is just my take. I like the higher floor quarterbacks. I like the quarterbacks that do two things really, really well. Make good decisions with the football because that obviously leads to a higher completion percentage. It gives your playmakers to make a chance. It typically, for the most part, theoretically keeps the clock running. And again, theoretically, less turnovers. That's my style of quarterback. And then also throw accurate footballs. You can be the smartest guy in the room. You could have the best arm. You could be the most mobile. But if you aren't accurate with the football, it's just, I'm talking ball placement at, really any 3 level. And you can do things to minimize it, but, or maybe not minimize it, but kind of mask it by how you want to call an offense, the type of system, what you want to do week to week, how to attack defenses. But when I look at Shedeur Sanders, he does both of those things really, really well. He makes great decisions with the football, which in turn means he does not turn the football over, and he completes it at a pretty high clip, and he throws accurate passes. All of the best college coaches that I've been around, the offensive coaches that I've been around, have always highlighted those 2 things. You got to be accurate, and you got to make good decisions. Those 2 things are just must-haves. Again, Sanders possesses both traits. He completed 74% of his passes, had over 4,100 passing yards, and threw for 37 touchdowns. All of those numbers are individually in the top 5 in college football. Shedeur Sanders' offensive IQ is really, really, really high. His throwing mechanics, awesome. The big knock on Shedeur Sanders is arm strength, right? That's, everyone on TV, everyone's talking about Shedeur Sanders' arm strength. But the reality is, well, I guess maybe how I look at arm strength, once you pass a certain threshold, you're in the clear. You're good. I mean, Jared Goff does not have the best arm. Alex Smith, Tua, Brock Purdy. Like, there's so many, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. There's so many different cases that you can look at and say, hey, this quarterback, they don't have a top 5, top 10 arm, but they're still out there making it happen. And I think Sanders kind of falls into that camp where it's not a great arm, but it's good enough. I think Sanders is the type of quarterback to step in, run an offense really, really well, know where to go with the football, understand what the defense is trying to do, be able to come in and complete passes at a pretty high percentage, and distribute, manage the game, high floor game manager. Now, you can argue, is that worth the 7th overall pick? Some would say yes. Some would say no. Some would say, hey, look at the Jets. They don't have a franchise quarterback. Could this make sense? I think for me, even though I really, really like Sanders as a prospect, again, just my type of quarterback, you kind of think of, again, a Jared Goff, a Teddy Bridgewater, an Andy Dalton, and Alex Smith. That's like the archetype for Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. I only want the Jets to and by the way, I see this being realistic here with how the board is falling. I could see the Jets taking him, but the only way I want the Jets to take him here is if 2 things happen. Number 1, everyone on board, Bougie, Glenn, Inkstrand, Spielman, ownership, everyone says Shedeur Sanders is the guy. We love Shedeur Sanders. We think he's a perfect fit for the offense. We love him. We love his game. We know we can build around him. There's no question about it. Similar to how the Denver Broncos viewed Bo Nix. Because, I mean, at this point last season, people, again, the big-time mock drafts, they had Bo Nix going in, like, the 2nd round. They're falling out of the 1st round. Or, like, a late 1st-round guy. Bo Nix to the Broncos just made so much sense because he fit exactly what Sean Payton wanted to do. If Shedeur Sanders fits exactly what Tanner Engstrand and Aaron Glenn want to do, it's hard to argue with that. So that's the first thing, right? If there's, if Aaron Glenn is out, I don't want this guy, then you don't make the pick. If Muji's out, you don't make the pick. Everyone needs to be on board when you're selecting a quarterback, I don't care who it is, within the top 10, especially if it's going to be your first pick to kick off, your career as new general manager and head coach and OC for that matter. The second thing, he needs to actually be put in a position to have success, something that the Jets fail to do every single time they select a young quarterback. It's the most frustrating thing ever as a fan. I'm just so tired of seeing this team just say, oh, here's the young quarterback. You're starting immediately. No quarterback competition, no veteran quarterback help. You save us. Please save us. We're incapable of doing that. So it's now up to you. Can you Andrew Luck us 2 wins where you have to do everything? Sanders is not that type of quarterback. Sanders is not Andrew Luck. Sanders is not. I mean, we're seeing what happened with the Colts and Anthony Richardson. It's so. It just drives me up a wall watching teams throw or force young quarterbacks out there that might not be ready to play, might not be in the best overall, setup for success, And all of a sudden, it just goes right down the drain. And the Jets have done that 2 times back to back. Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson. Please save us. We're incapable. Please save us. If Shedeur Sanders is the pick, I don't think he should start. I think whatever happens, Fields, Cousins, Carr, Tyrod, Jordan Travis, whoever, put someone else in and actually give Sanders the time on the bench until he's ready to play. And even if it's neck and neck, it's close between him and Tyrod, just go with the veteran. So those are my only stipulations here. Everyone needs to be on board, and there needs to actually be a plan. It's not, we're going to select this guy for tickets. We're going to select this guy because he's a quarterback and we need one, and we just hope that it works. That's a horrible approach, horrible mindset. There needs to be the 100% buy-in to the organization that they're going to maximize Shedeur Sanders' talents by building the team around him and also putting veterans or stashing players in front of him so he doesn't get forced out there early. Sanchez played early. Geno played early. Like, the trend has got to stop. The trend's got to stop. Actually put the quarterback in a position to have success for once. So, other than that, I do like Sanders as a prospect, and I could actually see this happening, but I know not everyone's on board with Sanders, which is completely fine. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And by the way, the Jets can go with Will Johnson here. They could go with Ted McMillan. They could go with Tyler Warren. I think Ted McMillan probably is the most realistic option. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but anyway, let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.